Good evening, everybody. Daisy Rebed here for you again tonight. And since I'm wearing something I haven't worn on the channel before, I'll get up and give you a little turnaround before we start my story, thought, thing. It's hard to classify this one, so we'll start with a little turnaround, a little show off the dress, and then we'll get to talking. So, fan service first. Sorry if that was a little off-centered. The camera was still aligned for getting a view here at my desk of me talking to you. Well, one bunny cannot be perfect every day. So, today's topic is about a mental issue, one that I actually have. It is hoarding. And, well, that could bring up a wide range of things many of you are probably thinking. What do you mean hoarding? Do you have a house full of empty tuna cans that you're not willing to throw out? No, don't worry. Nothing. I do not hoard anything dangerous. Depending on your level of dangerous, I'm sure something is eventually flammable enough that it becomes a hazard. But so far, I am not being a hazard. I'm actually a good little person with hoarding mentality that has been fighting with it for all his life. So, to start off, I will go with, where does this come from for me? For me, I have definitely an inherited hoarding tendency. Now, even if it wasn't genetically in tune, it would be learned into you from your childhood. So, I had grandparents on both sides that were definitely hoarders. My mother's mother, I didn't have a mother's father any of my life, so starts as her. She was pretty hoardy. She had a garage full of stuff. She had a house full of stuff. Now, it was never unusable. She always had living room, dining room, living room, kitchen, dining room. She had didn't have a dining room. She had a dining kitchen. Spare bedroom for where the grandbabies, which was I was one of, could come over and stay and play Legos and things. She had her bedroom, and then the entire basement, which was practically the same size as her whole house, which was full of stuff. We didn't really see it too much because it was outside of the area we would go visit. The living room was immaculate. I mean, that was one of those you'd think dust did not come in there. That's how clean it always was. Um, so, but she definitely hoarded. Now, my father's parents, who were both alive throughout all my childhood, were definitely heavy hoarders. Okay, they had a 2-bedroom house. This is kind of relative because both of these houses aren't originally what they ended up being. So the upstairs of this one's house, the upstairs, was 2 actual bedrooms plus this long hallway that went alongside one of the bedrooms, but to nowhere else, and it was kind of an office and storage. It was weird. We'll just say 2.5 upstairs bedrooms. And downstairs was a kitchen dining room, an enclosed front porch, a enclosed now back porch that was actually turned into actual room. In fact, the windows were moved behind it so that the windows always still there, but it was actually put into the heating system, so it was actually all internalized. And a basement under the whole thing, living room. If I didn't mention that too. Now their house, the main floor where the living room, dining room, back office slash used to be a porch front that is still a porch but is enclosed permanently as well, and downstairs bathroom. It was all more or less neat and tidy. The office had some paperwork usually out because Grandpa always was doing paperwork in that room, so. But in general, it usually looked pretty good. You didn't really notice it. Upstairs in that hall of storage room was actually pretty full. And outside of this house, oh, and their basement was full. Full basement, full of stuff. Much of which we found over the years after they were dead. Question mark, how was this even safe? And then he went out to their garage, which was twice as big as their house. Not kidding. It had 2 car slots in it, which were always free for cars to be in. One of which had a pit. That was awesome. You could go change your oil and get stand under your car without having to put up on jack stands or something. That was fun. But it had 2 car slots, enough space on the bottom floor, probably technically for 4 more cars besides the 2 car slots. But there weren't actual slots. This wasn't they were being lazy for this. It was just how it's laid out. It was room space. Stuff, full of stuff. And then upstairs, which was solid full of stuff, like solid full of stuff. Every time Grandpa would buy a present for his 2 sons, like a tool or something, he would end up buying himself one, whether or not he needed it or knew what he would want it for. After he died in 2000, we were over there with Grandma and finding all of the tools that had never been unboxed that I remember seeing Dad and Uncle Rick opening at Christmas. Like, oh, I remember that sander thingy. Yeah. Yeah, Dad has one. Uncle Rick has one. They used it. And here's a brand new one still in a box. So, they also, every time Grandpa would go to the store, he would buy stuff. General stuff. Consumables. It was almost 5 years after Charmin had stopped having the blank toilet paper, which I loved as a kid, to when they started putting some printing on it. They still had the blank toilet paper because he had hoarded that much TP and paper towels and things down there. He would just buy the big packs when he'd go to the store, whether or not they were even close to out. Another reason their basement was full of stuff. After he died, all of the male descendants, all of the sons, both sons, all the grandsons and whatnot, each got a garbage bag full of brand new, never been used white undershirt t-shirts because he had that many in stock. I ended up donating mine to the Goodwill or something at some point because I never wore them, and what am I going to do with a garbage bag full, a big one, big garbage bag full of white undershirts? And my parents also. Oh, my grandparents still. They also had the farm, which is still owned by the family. Have a farmhouse on it, which is full of stuff. I have access to this farm, by the way. I can always go out there for vacation if I so choose to. I just have to ask my parents for a key to the house, and they'll happily give it to me. But it's Creekside, Pennsylvania. That's the town with a grocery store, restaurant, gas station, Bates shop. That's one building. That's it. That's all that's there. Because you gotta have somewhere you can buy your bait and groceries, and a restaurant, and gas. That's the one place. But that's all full of stuff. My parents have a really old house. I don't know exactly how old. It was one of the first buildings in Apollo, back when Apollo was new. I know that the addition was put onto the house in the late 1800s. So the addition is 130 plus years old at this point. So that's a thing. And they have the areas you can see in their house normally are not completely vacant of stuff. You can see stuff, like stacks of stuff, around the edges of the living room and the dining room and the kitchen and the front hall. You can see piles of stuff, but you can still get around and be. There's the library, the back hall downstairs, the upstairs room of the library, my sister's old room, which was my old room in the end. Those are all completely full of stuff. Some which is my sister's, though, so I can't blame them all for that. But the majority of this is my parents' stuff. Their basement, full of stuff. My dad built a 3-story garage. Mom got to pull the van into it once. After that, full of stuff. Stuff. Um, I would say the majority of it is not caustic, not dangerous of any kind. It's not like they're hoarding, used undergarments or something. They're not hiding away empty cans from peaches or something. I'm sure somewhere there's an open can of vegetables they've lost and it's hiding there. But if I can say almost any house probably has, that's been around for a long time, has a lost can of something somewhere in there, and you're going to find it. And you go, ew, peaches from the 1970s, ew. And you'll probably throw it away because it's still in a can and you're safe. But that's coming from Stuffland. So I do have this tendency. And there's a lot of stuff that I would have been so still hoarding. Because you come away from that and you feel like you have to not get rid of things because you might need them. This thing might be useful later. I've gone through a lot of purges here and there whenever I will go through a set of something I have and say what I don't need. My computer repair parts box, which I used to have tons and tons and tons of parts sitting around for in case of emergencies. At one point I stopped and said, wait a minute, what all's in here? I threw away stacks of VGA cards with ISA card slots. If you're not old enough to know what ISA card slot is, you just think about that. So, threw away plenty of ISA video cards and ISA Ethernet cards, 30-pin RAM, 72-pin RAM. I'm not going to ever use a device that's going to be old enough to need any of this stuff. So it went in Yale trash at some point. And I went from like 4 18-gallon totes worth of parts down to 1. And even that, I can say some was probably not as valuable or useful, but to a certain extent, if it doesn't take up a lot of space at all, I don't feel it's a big deal. Like PMCIA cards, well, I don't think I'm ever going to use them again. They really don't take up much space. They're just about the size of a credit card. They're like maybe 3 credit cards stacked together. Okay, so I'm not talking I'm hoarding a giant brick of hard drive here. And I honestly probably need to go through that tote again. It's been a couple years. I probably have stuff I can throw away out of it again, but it's hard to do. Plush critters. There were times when I would just buy anything that I thought was at all cute, at all attractive. And so did Autumn. And we got together, and now we had all of this stuff. And when we moved into this place, we had put most of them just in the one room, and it just made this pile. And we both looked at it, and we didn't think, oh man, it's so great, we have all this. It's more like we both looked at it and went, this is past manageable. So we did sort through stuff. We gave a lot away to the Goodwill. In fact, I have a stack that's ready to go to the Goodwill right now. We've sorted some stuff out to go to different rooms of the house, like the Stitch and Angel plushies moved out to one room. All the Pokemon ones went into a spot, and they're all sitting up nicely. So we did move some stuff out. Lion King's all in one spot. Fox already had a wall. There's literally a wall of foxes. Those aren't getting rid of. That's part of a perma collection. Uh, Minis, all Minnie Mouse stuff is on shelves in the bedroom in a space. They're all safely set up somewhere. So we did work to thin things down. We still probably want to get rid of some stuff because we both are looking at it and going, we don't want to be hoarders. I don't want to have this problem in the future of no space because of stuff. Uh, and that's a lot of what comes down to. It's okay to have hoarding tendencies as long as you control it. Uh, Keep an eye out for what is actually junk. If it is completely useless and you know you're never going to need it, throw it away. If it doesn't take up a lot of room, it's not as big a deal. But if it's at all hazardous, food waste, people waste, especially food and people waste here, do not save your used protective undergarments or anything like that. You don't have to save used kitty litter. You don't have to save tin cans that have a little bit of food left in them on a. Hey, no, that's garbage. Get rid of that, children. Um, and if you've gotten rid of a device, you don't have to keep the instruction manual for it anymore. Accidentally, we've done that for a while. After we moved, I found several instruction manuals for devices we didn't know it anymore that I'd thrown away. I'm like, oh, that accidentally got packed. That's going to recycling. Uh, uh, Now, having backup equipment, not necessarily a bad thing. Having a spare monitor or keyboard around or two, if they're going to potentially be useful, isn't a bad thing. We have some spare keyboards and mice. In fact, I generally have a backup of Autumn's preferred trackball in the drawer at all times for when one eventually wears out, because he uses them constantly. So that's not so much hoarding as much as it is being prepared. Uh, and it doesn't hurt to have some emergency hardware, especially when it involves your work, because you don't want to not be able to work. It's really frustrating if you can't. And in the very least, it's really frustrating if you're really used to a trackball and that one stops working and you're forced to use a mouse for a day. That can totally blow your mojo. You have no idea what it's like to use a different mouse you're not expecting for even just one day. Just, nope, that doesn't work. um, but I've been working through this for a lot of years. There's a lot of times I've given up a lot of stuff that sometimes I feel regret and loss. Other times I go, well, I'm okay without that stuff. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I've lost some things I really wish weren't the things that got lost by attrition, but you got to do what you got to do. And you move on and make new memories. You get new things. Being in the less than rich side, it's easier to want to hoard even the most useless stuff because you know you're just just wealthy enough to get some things, but not wealthy enough to think you can replace them if they're gone. So if you're just on that edge, it's a lot easier to think, I shouldn't throw this out because I might need it. Um, Now, I knew a lot of wealthier children as I grew up, and a lot of them were a lot less hoardesque, mostly because they had no concept of not having the ability to get a replacement. You you want a new toy, you get a new toy. You wanted a video game, you get a new video game. Your your keyboard breaks, you get a new computer. I mean, it's really stuff comes out of nowhere. Magic, aka mom and dad's wallet. Now, the more I am definitely not poor at this point, and it makes it a lot easier to know that if I get rid of something and I want a something again later, I can probably buy a something or find a something or something similar to the something. Will I potentially miss the one something that I got rid of? And Am I trying my best to not think that way? Yes. Hoarding is really easy to get into as far as bad habits. Uh, and I encourage you all, especially younger people, keep an eye on how your life goes and see that you're not going to accidentally start doing that. It'd be better for you and better for your, if you have children and their children will have to deal with whenever you're gone, to not have a complete house worth of explosion to deal with. Uh, well, this was kind of a dreary subject, mind you. I'll just label it as a thought. Um, but I do want to thank you all who've listened throughout this mess. I hope you all have a bunny-filled rest of your night. Think pink fluffy thoughts. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Ring that little dingly bell, all that fun stuff, everything that makes the YouTubes happy. Share this with your friends. The more people that watch my videos, the better. Maybe share a different video. I know this one wasn't the best, but have a good night. Patreon's there if you want it. Thank you for watching every little bunny, and well, I hope to see all of you on my next video.